Hello, everyone. Welcome to this week's edition of This Week in Hospitality Digital Marketing. I am your host, Lauren Gray, Vice President of Digital Strategy for Standing Dog Interactive, and also on the Board of Americas for HSMAI, as well as the Digital Marketing Council for HSMAI. And for those who may not know what HSMAI is, it is the Hospitality Sales and Marketing Association International, the largest organized body of sales marketing professionals in the hospitality space. And I have been associated with them from a volunteer perspective for, 14 years. Oh, good. Bethany can hear me as well. Excellent. So good to know that I'm trying a new microphone. Well, actually not new for me. I used it for our podcast, which was also Hospitality Digital Marketing. We put that on the HSMAI site as well as hospitalitydigitalmarketing.com. We do weekly on that. Oops, good. DeAndre's jumping in. We'll have DeAndre jump in on that. And so we have the podcast. We have this. Hey, Mr. D. Oh,
hello.
It's lunchtime.
I know. I'm always every time I get on, I'm eating something, which I love because I like to eat. I'm having really delicious clam chowder. It looks gross, but it's really good. I promise.
Quite all right. We're doing it lunchtime for the Central Time, so we know that we get a little later time for Eastern. DeAndre, it's also with me at Standing Dog. We should actually make introductions. We've been talking enough on this that we need to make sure everybody knows who's here for here. Mr. DeAndre is our aficionado, manager responsible for all Rich Media, video, photo work, what have you. He's deeply involved with creating new and really cool stuff for hospitality, 360 videos, doing videos for a lot of our clients for property level that they can use because, as we discussed in previous Blabcasts, video is a critical component and even becoming more critical to the advertising space, especially online. And to that point, Mr. D, rather than venturing off, do you have anything to say about the value that you represent into the world of hospitality?
Well, I'm really excited. We just had a good presentation about some of where we are and with our clients. And a video ad that I created for one of our clients has gotten some amazing numbers. And the return on spend versus what we spent to create it and the revenue that they've received from it, just by not only impressions and reach, but tangible, actual bookings and whatnot, I think is really, really exciting because video for a long time, I feel like has been one of those things where it's like people feel like they should have it, but it's not always quantifiable. Like there's not a button that says, all right, I watched this video and now I am going to spend $1 billion at your property. But I think as we move into video ads and things like that, we start to be able to get to put a really good number on it. Because I think it's one of those things where it's not always like, how do you determine the ROI on having a beautiful, beautiful picture of your lobby so that when people go to your website, they see that your property is not just a shack? How do you put a number on that? And video has been like that, I think, for a lot of time. It's something that's amazing. It's compelling. It drives conversions, but it's not the end all be all of the conversion. So I think it's been difficult to quantify. And I'm excited sitting in that presentation, seeing, hey, we have some hard numbers on how positive this has been for the client has been. I mean, it was super cool to hear that.
Yeah. I'm trying the Brady Bunch thing, by the way. I'm trying to look to my right as if you were there. Does it look like I'm looking at you?
Well, on my screen, you're just looking off into space because I'm on the other side. So I don't know.
I'm trying to look so cool with this. Like, oh, let me look over this way. Oh, let me look over this way. Okay. No, an incredibly valid point. And I know that just coming back from visiting the land of Google with the Google Partner Conference out in San Jose or Sunnyvale, they're really emphasizing they're expanding their YouTube advertising capabilities. They're putting cards in. Well, they already have cards. I'm not saying they're putting it in. They have the cards already, which are linkable, clickable advertisement associated with the video. And now they're also doing end caps at the end of the videos where they'll put the short video snippet commercial at the end of the video, especially for the highly popular ones. But it is turning into a more value proposition space, as you pointed out. And yes, our clients are benefiting from your expertise on that because you are providing them the product. So, good for that. Wanted to point out a couple things I just thought were of interest for this week. Interest sounds almost familiar because I want to talk about Pinterest.
Interesting.
Pinterest. I'll pin that up next time. It's changing its value proposition, don't you think? I mean, it always had this tertiary value. It had a market that you could relatively define being female and being associated with being healthy fitness. We have a young, Lorraine, hey, come on in. Lorraine's also, it's a standing dog crew today. It's just going to be all of us. Lorraine, hi. Okay, you have to introduce yourself because you haven't been before, so you have to tell us who you are.
Look at my face. I look beautiful.
And that's a surprise, really? Is that a surprise?
Thank you, DeAndre.
Good side, good side.
Seriously, do I have to introduce myself?
You have to say, you have to tell what you do, because we already had DeAndre go over and flash through about the video and the value of the video, and you have to talk about you.
Okay, so, well, my name is Lorraine. I can't talk too loud because I'm in the office in an open space. I do SEO for Marriott, but mostly, and I work in Spanish. And there's the I speak Spanish, and yeah, I'm awesome. I'm also awesome.
No, it's true.
Right there. Yeah, we got to give little handy clappy things. We got to do the little props.
I don't want to say this out loud because people, but I'm the star of the whole office.
Pretty much everything that you do, you are the leader.
Right here.
That's very true. Yeah, that's true.
Well, I think what's really cool is we just spent some time as a company going through, and I mean, obviously in the office we all know each other and we're all friendly and we all work together, but we spent some time today going over what everybody's role is and how, like, what clients they work on and what it is that they do and what their areas of expertise are. And it was really, really powerful, I feel like, because there's people, for instance, there's people like Lorraine who's working on, how many accounts? You've got 50, 60 accounts.
I have a lot of accounts, yes.
And it's something from my little corner of the office. I'm like, that is so many. And I had no idea. On some level I probably did, but like, it's these sheer numbers of all this cool work that everybody's doing. I thought was just really cool.
And just so people that do view this later, Lorraine, you're in South America. I mean, you have properties for our clients that are throughout South America, throughout Central America, throughout the Caribbean. Your daily routine necessarily isn't because you're sitting in Dallas. It's just you're thinking about keyword strategies and market placements and destination marketing in Peru and in Mexico, and you're dealing with client levels. By all means, I mean, this is a chance to talk a little bit about the diversity of that, because your mind can go from being in the office to being in different countries all too easily. So what are some things you face?
Every day is like a vacation in my head.
Yeah. Yes, it is.
Looking at the pictures and trying to come up with ideas, and something that I learned very quickly is that not necessarily what works for a U.S. property will work for a property in South America or in the Caribbean. So that's where I think, oh, look who's there. That's where I think our approach it's good, like, as a company, because we tailor our strategies to those markets. So we can, because we have an understanding that it's a different language, and even if it's Spanish, it's a different kind of Spanish. You don't talk to the people the same way. So, it's very important to be in tune with that in order to be effective.
I think you have backup on that, Laura.
Yep.
We made Lorraine go over and explain what she does. This turned into a standing dog chat room today. We haven't seen anybody else pop from HSMI yet, so we're just going to talk about ourselves a little bit. But since I have not had the pleasure of being on the Blabcast yet, you need to go over and tell us a little bit about what you do and all that fun stuff.
Well, I'm honored to join. We actually just had a meeting where we kind of introduced ourselves a little bit, so I'm prepared to introduce myself, which is nice. So I'm one of the copywriters here. I'm the bilingual copywriter. So I do work a lot with Miss Lorraine on creating content for her her Marriott hotels that want to create content and optimize content in Spanish. And I just called in, so I may have missed a little bit, but I definitely agree with what Lorraine was saying. I think sometimes people think, well, I can just auto-translate my existing content and that'll be fine. That's not really true. You want to have like an actual human person translate your content. Google Translate, there's a number of reasons why you don't want to do that. First of all, Google will actually, if you're auto-translating your content, that might be marked as spam by Google, so you're not going to get good rankings for that. And rather than even just translating your content, we sometimes different market segments care about different things. So maybe the content that you have on your site in English, maybe that mentions things that aren't applicable to your Spanish speaking customers. So I always use the example, maybe you have Spanish channels on your TVs at your hotel. That's not something that you're going to mention to your, English customers, but that's something that your Spanish customers are definitely going to want to know. So rather than just auto-translating your content, I would encourage everyone to go for an agency that has Spanish speakers on the staff and get them to create content specifically for your Spanish-speaking customers, and that's what we do here.
Yeah, good point. Now, has that much for both of you changed in the sense of when you first started doing Spanish for clients and for just the market in general, when you're dealing with not only alternate countries, but domestically the Spanish market? Has the maturity of what you've been doing changed much? Like, is it where you used to get by with just generalities and now you have different refinements that you have that you didn't have to worry about even just a year ago?
Go ahead, Lorraine. I'll let you take that one.
Yeah. The way we worked with Marriott, it was that they auto-translate the main description. So the moment that they open up that for us to be able to write it, it was awesome because things that we knew about the properties, specific details that the clients wanted to share, that not necessarily we were able to share with them in Spanish, we were able to incorporate those in the site. And that's something awesome. I mean, I have the example of one of the properties in Ixtapan, that they say, les recibimos con el corazón en la mano, no con la mano en el corazón. So like we receive you.
Okay, I knew exactly that was a problem. That was, yeah. And I'm so glad you took my suggestion on that because I really was really solid about that one.
Like we receive you with the head in our hearts or something like that. So that for me, that was like, whoa, that's kind of cool. And it's something that they don't have in the site in English, but they want to have it in the site in Spanish because they know that people, it's like telling them we care for you, not only because now your money, we care that you like our property, we care that your needs are met or whatever. So it's pretty awesome to be able to do that in Spanish.
Yeah, definitely. Oh, I'm sorry, Lauren.
No, just want to point out that we have to keep an eye on the chat side of it. Somebody just joined us and they're asking about the topic. Right now, we're talking about the use of Spanish for hospitality, the variances and how it's matured even over the past year from being simplistic in some ways earlier on where you just were doing direct translations to now knowing the nuances that there are some terms that really aren't translatable, but they're still usable for search engine optimization. So please, I'm sorry, go ahead, Laura.
No, just again, reiterating what Lorraine was saying, I know that having over-involved clients is definitely, can be frustrating sometimes, but like to a certain degree, I think that the client needs to be involved. Lorraine's from Puerto Rico. I know she's traveled a lot internationally. I've traveled to several Latin American countries, but like Latin America is a huge region, and the way that the language varies, it's sometimes, it's impossible for us to know the property as well as the people who are there know it. So exactly what Lorraine was saying, not only with the verbiage, but things that they want to highlight and the tone that they want to set. Like the more information we have from them, I mean, the easier my job is and the better the content turns out for sure.
Certainly. Any direct advice that, since we are recording this and hopefully it will be played back on HSMI and so forth, and anybody that's looking at the fact that they haven't really addressed the Spanish issue for their own properties yet, or that they didn't realize that there was a new depth to it, that it wasn't just the literal translation of terms in the hopes that it gets discovered. What advice would you have for them as to what they should start as? Other than finding us as an agency, which we know is true, but beyond that, what would be first steps, and what are things that they should consider as they try to advance their projects for that?
I would say, like, for example, if you're an English speaking person, would you like to read your stuff in a way that you understand and you feel familiar to it, or you would like to read it in a way that it reads a little clumpy and like stumbly? So that's what happens with auto translations. It's not natural. They're getting better, but still, it doesn't have the personal touch of a person. It doesn't have that personal touch that you want to add to your descriptions or whatever, your message. So I would say that it is important to start taking a look at that side to the language, so you can just start like improving your strategies. That goes for social, SEO, marketing in general. It is a language that it keeps growing, and a lot of people they're studying school they travel and they find it to be useful when they travel. So I don't know. I think that it's good to have some sort of tailor to the Hispanic community as well.
Lorraine.
Definitely. Go ahead, DeAndre.
Oh, well, I was going to ask a question. You explained a little while ago, probably right after I started, and you started, the difference between Spanish language results that come up in English Google and Google that is in Spanish. How would, if I was a hotelier, is that a hotelier?
Sure.
How would you approach that, where it's having Spanish content on the, I guess, English version of Google versus having a localized version of, how do rankings and things work when you start looking at Google.au or Google. I know that's Australia, but like Google.mx. Yes. How does that work?
It is in Google.mx, which is Google Mexico. That one for me is like the Google.com for, that's the same as the United States for the Latin America area. So in me saying that, I mean that is very competitive in terms of the terms that you go after. A lot of OTAs, which is the kayaks or, bookings.com, whatnot, they go for big terms. So it is important, as well as in English, just to be very specific as to what you want to go after. If you want to, for example, you have a hotel in Mexico City that they're a luxury hotel, but they're like a super awesome hotel. Just don't go only for hotels in Mexico City. Go also for hoteles en la Ciudad de México de lujo, hoteles de lujo en la Ciudad de México. So be like specific. Just tag along all the characteristics that you want for your hotel to for those searches and terms, because then yes.
Is Google.mx, is it indexed differently than Google.com, or does it all feed in together and you just receive Spanish language search results?
I want to say it's indexed differently because when you search on Google.com.mx, you find mostly the results are in Spanish. They serve you results in Spanish. They do serve results in English as well. I think it also has to do with how you search. For example, if you look for hotel en, so the word hotel is the same in Spanish and in English. So it's very likely that they're going to serve you, even though you're using en as an in, like en, it's more likely that they will serve you also English results, but they will give it priority to the Spanish one. Now, if you reverse that to the Google.com, that's it gets a little hairy there.
Like in my mind, I'm trying to.
No, they will serve you mostly results in English. It doesn't matter the language that you're searching for, unless it's very specific to Spanish.
I just don't know.
One of the things that I wanted to point out, Lorraine mentioned that if I primarily speak Spanish, then obviously the content that I'm reading, it's easier for me to understand it if it was written by a Spanish speaker in Spanish. And I think that's such a good point. But I think that additionally, if you have content on your site that is written in Spanish by a Spanish speaker, to me, that's a signal that you are willing to cater to the Hispanic market. And it's almost like a sign of respect to me. And to me, that goes a long way when you're choosing a hotel. You want to be somewhere where they are respecting you and catering to you, definitely. And as far as Lauren's question about, well, how do you decide, what are the first steps to deciding if you want to optimize or create content in Spanish? I think obviously you need probably to have some data to back you up. Are Spanish speakers visiting my site? Am I in an area that has a large Spanish-speaking audience? And I'm not a data person, so I don't know exactly how you go about doing that, but I think that definitely is important. That being said, I think that sometimes we have clients that don't want to optimize in Spanish because they say, oh, we don't have a big client base that is Spanish speaking. And that might be true, but to me, that's sort of a chicken and the egg issue. Like maybe you would have Spanish speaking clientele if you had your website written well in Spanish. So to me, it's, you don't want to spend all this money optimizing in Spanish if there's no market for it whatsoever. But I think that if you spend a little bit of time, creating certain pages in Spanish to sort of test the waters, then maybe you'll start to see, oh, there is potential and there are consumers that value this.
Right. Something that happened historically for me, it's going to turn into a question, is for hospitality, there's different segmentation that we pursue. And one thing I had noticed in the Florida market was a lot of searches were done initially in English for weddings, but then they wanted to quickly translate to Spanish when it became more specific to a hotel or to the actual wedding itself. They wanted to discover what they wanted to discover in English. Has that changed where now that there's enough in-depth Spanish content that we don't have to have this flip from one to the next, that we really can bring somebody from the inception of discovery to the point of potential purchase entirely in Spanish? Or do you still recommend that you keep the content based on the type of audience at a certain level of transition? I mean, what do you think?
I would say that it has to do with the market, the people you receive in your hotel, where the people are coming or visiting from. Because yes, it is important to have Spanish as well, but if it doesn't go with your market, then it's not going to be very useful, if you want to put it a word, and they will see it more like a waste of time. So, like for example, California market, Florida market, New York, Texas. Those are places that even Washington State, Washington D.C., like the East Coast, West Coast, and a little bit of the South. Those are markets that I will hands down recommend Spanish, because they have a lot of Spanish-speaking people, and you're catering to them. So it's like, oh, okay, so they have the side in English, they have the side in Spanish. For them, it's easier to search in Spanish because it's natural to them. But then if you go to, I don't know, North Dakota or Nebraska, Montana, maybe not so much, because you might not have a lot of that audience over there.
From you guys' perspective as people who speak, Lorraine, I know you speak Spanish as your first language. What percentage of people in America do you think speak Spanish as their only language versus people who speak a greater mix of the two?
Well, now that is changing, because they're getting more and more generations of like younger people. So maybe 2-3 generations back, that's all they spoke in their houses. But now, they're incorporating more English more and more. I think Laura can tell more on that, because I was born in Puerto Rico. I came here, and I speak both languages, but she has a household where they spoke Spanish and English, and so she can tell you more about that.
Sure. So my dad is a Mexican national. My mom is born and raised in Missouri, so she speaks, it's one of those North Dakota, Montana, Missouri. Not a lot of Spanish speakers. So my mom doesn't speak Spanish. My dad speaks Spanish and English, both pretty perfectly. So I grew up speaking Spanish with my dad and English with my mom. I grew up in the U.S. I went to American schools. So for me, English is my primary language. And I think that, like Lorraine was saying, the Hispanic population in the U.S. is growing, but I think more people are growing up like me, where they speak Spanish and English. And I think that's good in a lot of ways. That being said, I mean, some people are always, immigrating, and people who immigrate are going to speak Spanish primarily. So like we've been saying, it's important to cater to those people as well. And I search in Spanish occasionally too. So I think that's important to remember. Something that Lauren mentioned earlier is about people searching in English and in Spanish, which, like I just said, that's something that I would do. And I think that brings up an interesting subject as far as doing keyword research. And I know this is something that Lorraine does with her hotels. Spanish speakers are infamous for using Spanglish. So keep that in mind when you're doing keyword research. Don't just say hoteles en Nueva York or hoteles de lujo en Nueva York. You want to say hoteles de lujo en New York or hoteles in New York. You kind of mix it up a little bit and see what their search volume for, because I think that sometimes we're able to rank for those Spanglish terms that other people don't really think about doing that. So Latinos don't really limit themselves to one language, so marketers shouldn't either.
And that applies also for not only U.S., also for the Latin America and the Caribbean. For example, Mexico, there's Ciudad de Mexico, Mexico City. So people look for hoteles in Mexico City.
Exactly, yes.
That's something that I use because I know that people are looking for it. It's Spanish, it's English, it's both, but it's there. And our hotels show for that, or we have more opportunity to show either in Spanish or in English because they're looking for they're doing one search in 2 languages at the same time, if that makes sense.
Do you notice that there is a colloquialism or locality to how searches are being done in the markets that you're doing international? That there's a phraseology that's often used because of the culture reference that is different? Because unfortunately, for the U.S., we tend to homogenize it into even words that don't make sense, like Hispanic. I mean, it doesn't make any sense. There's the Mexican variations to how Spanish is spoken. There's the Costa Rican variations to how Spanish is spoken. But to just say it's an Hispanic concept is to defy some of the detail. Do you notice that there's variances like that you have to account for?
Absolutely. You have to be very careful the words you use, because some words have different meanings in different places. That's something that I take pride on, because many years of writing for the U.S. Hispanic and also for the Latin American region, you get to learn those specific words or that way to say things so you don't offend people. So yes, I mean, you have to be very careful how you write things or what you say.
And this is another part where client feedback is important. Like I said earlier, Lorena and I have traveled, but we haven't been everywhere. So sometimes, for example, the word stay, like a hotel stay, there's so many ways to say that, estadía, estancia. So typically I try to be consistent in the words that I use. And then if I get feedback from the client, I make a note and I say, okay, for this hotel, which is in this region, this is how they talk. And I sort of try to keep abreast of things like that. But, it's difficult. And so that's why I think that, again, clients being involved is really important.
From a question from the amount of data on a website, if you're going to optimize for Spanish, I know we can do metas and headers and so forth. And optimize for keywords within those and so forth. But how many pages deep? I know that's related to how many visitors you have. I mean, obviously, as you mentioned, in North Dakota, you're not so worried about having your entire website in Spanish. But in general, if you're going to make the commitment to try to get into recognizing Spanish as a searchability for your hotel, how many pages or what pages do you think would be the best ones to first do so that you can represent yourself in a more comfortable language for people if they're searching that way?
I would recommend tackling both. I will recommend tackling their pages the most content, because that's what the search engines are looking for. Search engines are looking for content relevance. So I will start there. Get your pages with the most amount of content, the pages that get more visits, start working with those, and then eventually start, moving on to other pages.
Well, I was gonna. What percentage of? Oh, sorry. I think we're having. But what percentage of Americans are Spanish speakers right now?
So I actually have that data. I have that data.
Yeah.
And let me just confirm. So there are 495 million Spanish speakers worldwide, and approximately 10% of the people living in the U.S. speak Spanish. So I think that the U.S. population is about 300 million. So if I'm doing my math right, that would be 30 million people, I think, 10%. So it's not a small number.
No.
Right. But as you pointed out, it's in certain areas that are more density, so you can obviously focus if you have properties in those areas.
Yeah.
We could probably keep going with this. We're hitting about a half-hour mark. We want to try to keep it always a half hour so people wouldn't feel like they have to listen for too long. But I do hope that we can do this conversation again, because I think, especially from knowing how our clients are needing this, there's probably more latent need out there where people don't have anybody to ask questions like this. So we'll try to make sure that it gets scheduled for people to know that we're going to actually talk about Spanish as an influencer on their strategies. And so we can try to make sure we get the right people in for the call. But thanks for jumping in.
Of course.
All right. We'll see everyone next week, and thank you very much.
See ya.
Bye, guys.
Bye.